The following is a special presentation from Broncos Television and the NFL. Reflections of a Championship Season, 1997, with Steve Atwater, Alfred Williams, and Mark Schlereth.
Before we get started, guys, what's the first thing that comes to mind when I say 1997 Broncos?
Well, I'll start off by saying magical, man. It was just the most magical season. A lot of hard work by guys who just loved the opportunity to compete, man. It was just magical.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll say connectivity. We were so connected. I mean, whether it was offense, defense, special teams, all the guys, like your ability to come together and connect as a football team, which, you know, we always look at talent, we look at things, execution and all that stuff, but the importance of actually liking one another. Having like, I remember like one-on-ones, you know, we go do one-on-ones, and usually one-on-ones are kind of a miserable time. Because it's like you get beat and it's embarrassing, and all that kind of stuff. But we are like talking smack, having fun. Alfred's keeping it constantly loose. Oh, yeah. There was a connectivity that we really liked each other. Like we all really liked each other.
Yeah, I agree with that. That was one of the biggest things I took from that season too, man. And you're going into it. We genuinely cared about each other. It wasn't just, hey, we were teammates, man. We cared about each other. We knew each other's families, the whole 9 yards, man. We had a real deep connection, and I think that was one of the keys of us having some success there.
Yeah, I'll tell you another thing. I mean, before that season, we had a bunch of salmon and a bunch of fish bake sent to the house, and Alfred was like, "Hey, dude, we got to do this big party, and we got to do it at your house, this big salmon party." Alfred still owes me $5,000 for throwing that party. He's like, Alfred's like, "Hey, we're gonna split it. We'll split the cost, man. It's gonna be awesome, right?" And we put it together, man. We had Alaska king crab leg. We had all kinds of salmon. We had tents. Everybody at the house. The whole team was at the house. I'm still waiting for that check from Alfred, man.
Man, that was one of the best days. That was the best days I've ever had in my life, man. It was great having all the families there and having all the fellas and seeing how everybody was just, it wasn't a mandatory meeting. It was all the players, and it was great.
Yeah, it was a blast.
I can say that 96 season, we had a great team. We were confident, but man, going into the 97 season, we were almost on the verge of being cocky. But I think we held it. We kind of bottled it in, though. We kept it within ourselves. We weren't outwardly cocky like that. But inside the buildings, though, we knew that we had a good team. We had great coaches, and we played for each other, man.
I mean, I've seen more competition. I've seen more guys give an effort. But we got to have a standard every time we come out on this field. This defense should be the best in the NFL. There's no question in my mind. Same thing with offense. Offense, we did some good things last year, but we know there's only one thing we're going to do is get better. And the only way you do it, the same thing. Every play, you work on execution, you're working your ass off to make sure we get the job done. We think in those terms, good things are going to happen.
Let's talk about Mexico. Playing in Mexico, what was that atmosphere? What was that experience like? Had you guys been to Mexico before?
No, I hadn't. And the experience was, we were kind of on lockdown in Mexico. Personally, for me, it was maybe the worst game I'd ever played.
Yes.
And I was playing against a guy by the name of Daryl Gardner that I'd never faced before. And the last 4 games of the season, the year previous, Daryl Gardner was out. He was injured. So we go into a preseason game. He was 6'7", 325 pounds. And I'm like, oh, man, come on. Big guy like that can't move. I'm going to just up kick him. I'm just going to try to destroy him on the line of scrimmage. Well, in that particular game, John Elway ruptured his bicep tendon.
Yes.
That's on me. Like, I'm the one that gave up that hit. Because I go to up kick Daryl Gardner, and he pushed a swim move on me, got an inside track on Elway, and hit him in the arm. And so, I mean, I literally did not sleep for 72 hours. Like I was like, oh my God, I got Elway hurt. I just thought I ruined our season. Like, that's over. Like, hey, Mexico City, welcome to the end of the 97 season. Thanks to Stink, Till Elway came back to practice, man, I was absolutely miserable. Yeah. And I played for Alex Gibbs, so he let me know, you cost us the season, you son of a, So he let me know that I was the worst player in the history of the National Football League and that I cost us a chance to win a championship. So that was until, Elway came back and they go, okay, now we're okay. Now I'm good with you again. So, yeah, absolutely. That was a miserable game for me.
As the Broncos began the 97 season, there was an obvious difference.
The new look is, of course, going to be talked about and criticized and liked by some people. But I think as we get into the season, it will be accepted. I mean, if we have a poor season, they're going to blame it on the new logo and the new uniform. But I'm excited about that aspect. But I'm excited about the next season because I think we have a very good football team that is capable of going all the way.
Did you guys like the uniforms? Did you think it was going to give us some bad luck or good luck? What were your thoughts on that?
The almost powder puff blue and orange meant that you were about to win a lot of football games. And I just wanted to be part of that. So I was not a fan of the big move over to the new uniform.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I personally really love the old colors, the old D on the helmet with the Broncos snorting. Yeah. Like, I thought it was great. So I wasn't a huge fan. Of course, it grew on me as we started winning games. I was like, hey, these uniforms aren't all that bad.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I really love the old uniforms, but I was kind of ready for a change, and I really liked the style of the uniform. I liked the way that they looked. I liked the new logo. I liked everything about it. I even liked those blue pants too, man. Those look good, people. We look good out here.
In the season opener, there were several new faces in those colorful new uniforms.
All right, buddy. Come on, man. All right, baby. Welcome to the good side. You know that's right. Hey, the same you did me for 9 years. All right. If you have to.
All right, so, man, the opener against the Chiefs, Elway to Rod Smith, big catch there. Defense, we held the Chiefs to 3 points. Having Neil Smith on our team now,
right?
The Chiefs team, that helped out a lot too. Alfred, what kind of help was Neil to the preparations for this game and the mindset?
Well, what happened for me is that immediately when Neil came over, it was a competition. It was a competition to see who could make. Oh, it was no joke. It was a fierce competition about who would have a better season, who would have a bigger impact on the game. And Neil, man, he said one of the defining moments about him deciding to come to Denver was watching me play and seeing how loose that I played. And so he lost, I think, somewhere around 15 or 20 pounds between training camp and that first game. And he played at that same size the entire time, the rest of his NFL career, because he said that he felt fresh and he felt like he could run again. And so the Kansas City game, for me, was the beginning of a competition that helped us win a Super Bowl.
Who won the season competition, Alfred? Was it you or Neil?
I think we both ended up with 8.5 or 8 sacks. I can't remember which one, but it was a good competition.
Oh, man, absolutely. And we got off to a great start there. Then we went on and we rolled into Seattle, beat them 35-14. Record was 2-0. What do you guys think our record needed to be for us to be like, man, we're on the right track to do it again, to get back to the playoffs like we did the previous year?
I always think if you can get through the first 6 games and you've got a 5-1, 6-0, maybe 4-2 record, like you get through that first 6 games, because I know we break it up into quarters, but it's almost like broken up into, as a player, into thirds. Like I get through these 6, and then you get through the next 6, and the next 6 is the grind. And then the final games after Thanksgiving, you're like, oh man, we're on the downhill slide. So I always kind of looked at it like after the first 6 games, if we can be 4-2 or better, we got a chance to do something special through that grind. Because everybody, you realize as a player, everybody goes through that grind. Like that's like once you hit the middle of October through Thanksgiving, man, that is a going into December, that's a tough road to hoe, so to speak. And then you only have 4 games left at the end and what you have in the playoffs if you get there.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like Stink has won a lot of football games.
Now we're rolling up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Terrell Davis rolled for 215 yards. Offensive line got the most versatile offensive line in the NFL, got a game ball for that.
Yeah, well, we love to run the ball. I mean, no offensive lineman ever wants to sit back and pass protect. So when you get that opportunity, and when you look at Cincinnati, here's the thing about Cincinnati. They weren't very good at that time. But, man, you want to talk about loaded with talent because they always pick in the top 10 of the draft. Yeah. So you get through there, you look at their roster, and you're like, oh, first rounder. Right there, you're like, oh, they got 7 first-rounders on their defense, And so when you get that opportunity just to absolutely thunder punch somebody in the chin, like that is so much fun because that's what you want to do as an offensive lineman. And then to see TD get 215 yards instead of franchise record. That was really cool for us. So, just having those accolades and being able to be a part of that was really that part is what makes it, all come together.
My wife is in the stand, wanted me to go get a sack.
Alfred Williams, come on, man. You wanted a sack for the wife. You got something even better. Tell us about the play.
Well, what happened was, on that play, Jeff Blake received the snap from center. Neil Smith went forward, and nobody else on the Bengals moved. And when Neil hit Jeff, I just picked the ball up, and the only thing that I saw was Eric Bieniemy, my old college teammate, and he was chasing me. And I was looking back at him, I'm like, is this play live? Is it live? And so when I got close enough to know that I was going to score, I'm like, I'm going to dive in. Right around like the 40-yard line, I'm like, I'm diving. I've never had a touchdown in college or the NFL. I've had a few safeties. I think I had like a few safeties, but I've never had a touchdown. That was my first and only touchdown ever in the NFL. So I was like, man, I'm diving. No matter what happens, I'm diving.
I tell you what, that was toward the end of the game, and I never forget. I'm sitting on the bench, and the game is out of hand, and all of a sudden, I see Alfred scoop it up, and we're sitting on the bench watching him, and then it's just so Alfred because as soon as he dove over the goal line, we're like, "Look at this idiot!" Like, would you look at this idiot? We're all laughing over there. The game is out of hand. And we're all looking up at the Jumbotron going, would you look at this clown? He better not hurt himself, right? But it was part of what made us. It was like having Alfred, and I always tell this story, man. Alfred used to make me so nervous in the locker room because I'd be dressed and ready to go like 2 hours before. It'd be 15 minutes before we walked out, and he'd be walking around skinny fat in a jock strap with socks on. That's it. And I'd be like, dude, would you get dressed? You're driving me crazy. Like, I feel like you're going to miss the game. So to see Alfred jump over there, man, that was such a celebration for us.
It went right along with Alfred and his personality. That was awesome.
The Broncos' 38-20 victory over the Bengals was historic.
We had something happen today for the first time in club history. First guy over 200 yards, and obviously game ball for TD and the offensive line. First TD.
Monday Night Football against the Patriots at home. That was a big win for us against the defending AFC champs. What do you guys remember about that game?
I never looked at the Patriots as a credible opponent. I never did. I never looked at them. I never did because I just thought that we were just a much better football team. I didn't see why they were better than us. I really looked at the Chiefs and the Raiders as better indicators about who we were as a football team. I mean, when we saw teams that were good teams but not great, I just thought that we should just blast them. I really thought that the Patriots were a team that was a good team, but not a great team. I mean, I think our greatest competition was in our division.
The 6-game winning streak ended in Oakland.
Away! Here we go!
Those Raider teams were so talented, man.
Oh, they were loaded now.
They were loaded.
They were
man.
loaded.
I mean, you talking about talent, man. Wherever we were good, they were good. You know, and whether it was, at the quarterback position, who Rich Gannon, I think, was a league MVP at some point in his NFL career.
Mm-hmm.
Running back or wide receiver, Hall of Famer, and Tim Brown, offensive line, big, tough, nasty. Just a really good foot. That's why I said, I never feared playing against a team that was outside of our division, because our division was just loaded, man, just loaded.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the Buffalo game. You guys remember that one when we had the snowstorm here in Denver? Guys were riding snowmobiles to get over to the facility to get to the airport. Man, I remember I had to get a ride on a snowmobile over to Greg Robinson's house, and then a guy was over there in a Ford Bronco and took us over to the facility. Man, what were you guys experience that day?
I had talked to Tommy Neal in the morning. He lived in this apartment complex on the way. And he's like, hey, they haven't plowed out my apartment complex. I can't get the car out. And I was like, hey, no problem, man. I'm from Alaska. I'll pick you up. It's not a big deal. Like, whatever, right?
Right.
I kid you not. So I go cruising down out of my neighborhood. And, it's 3 feet of snow, and snow's flying over the top. Like, and I'm just cruising. And I kid you not, man, I hit this snow drift that went over the windshield of the car. And it took me 3 hours to dig my damn car out of there. And finally, I got to the facility. And Tommy Nealon was out on, like, he was basically out on Arapahoe, like hitchhiking. And one of the guys pulled by and picked him up. Old Tommy, ratty clothes, Tommy Nealon, right? And so I finally get to the facility, and Tommy's already there. And he's like, "Oh, I'm from Alaska. I have no problem." I mean, it was awful. It was just awful.
It was awful. It was.
Yeah, man. Now, Terrell Davis had another 200-yard game. Traylor had an interception and a score. Alfred, you caused the fumble. And then Jason Elam with that 33-yard game-winning field goal. How important was Elam to the team, especially making these clutch kicks like this?
When I think about Jason Elam, I just think about how different of a player he was than I was, where I was loosey-goosey, full of excitement and joy. Jason Elam was all about his business. He was very tactical, always calm, always level-headed, and just really understood how important he was to the team. I just thank Jason Elam for being almost presidential as a member of our team, because he just took everything really serious, and just a great player.
Yeah, Jason was awesome. I think one of the cool things about this, you got to understand that we get in, well, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and coaches are such creatures of habit. We want to have our meetings and do all those things that we do, right? Shortened versions of those things. But I know that the Broncos had actually called, the league office and said, hey, can you push us back to a 4 o'clock start as opposed to 1 o'clock start? The league office said, hey, pound sand, you guys are in this thing, right? But I think one of the things, I knew what a great play caller and what a great coach Mike Shanahan was, but a tactician and strategist. Because if you remember that game, it was cold, it was windy.
Windy.
Really, really super windy. And this was a time when the NFL playoff rules were, hey, man, if you score, whether it's a field goal or whatever, it's sudden death. I mean, it's real sudden death. The other team doesn't get a chance to touch the ball. And Mike Shanahan, the beginning of that, chose to kick off to them and try to pin them down deep and play the field position game. And it went back and forth. We ended up scoring that field goal with about a minute and change maybe left in that overtime period. But just from a strategy standpoint, putting faith into the defense, but understanding the weather conditions and understanding kind of what was going on at that time. Like I said, I knew what a tactician he was, but that was kind of the overall strategy of game conditions and what it was going to take to win that football game. So just another level of respect, a layer of respect that I already had for the coach.
Yeah. And we went on to win against Seattle again, and then the Panthers. We rode through the Panthers.
One to beat Gordon. Are you kidding me? Darian Gordon, for the second time, has run back a punt for a touchdown.
This is only the 8th time it's been done in the history of pro football. One player had 2 punt returns for a touchdown.
The secret to the Broncos' success was an abundance of playmakers. And in a late-season win over the Chargers, veteran safety Steve Atwater proved he was one by scoring the first touchdown of his 9-year career.
And the Bronco defense is at it once again.
Here we go, the San Diego Chargers game, back when they were in San Diego. Man, got my first interception for a touchdown. It was my 9th year in the league. And, man, that was crazy that it had taken that long to be able to score a touchdown. That was a great moment for me. Al, you took that ball, didn't you?
Maybe.
Wait a minute. That wasn't crazy for me at all. That wasn't crazy for me at all because you were too busy trying to decapitate players to think about actually catching the ball back there. But I'll never forget, I was watching that game at home because I didn't travel because I had that back surgery after we played the Kansas City Chiefs. And I remember coming up to you after that game. I don't know if you remember this, Steve, going in the locker room going, dude, you are a freaking awesome player. Like you were laying wood. And because I never watched the defense play. I never watched it. And Atwater was just absolutely trying to hurt people. And I was like, wow, I'm glad he's on our team.
We had a saying on defense, and the saying was, way to knock it down, because Atwater wouldn't catch none of the balls that were thrown to him. Like, for as great of a player that he was, he just couldn't catch an interception. So we say, way to knock it down, Water.
Right. Even in the Super Bowl, I had one, man, and let it go.
In a Week 12 showdown in Kansas City, Denver watched a dominating performance dissolve into a heartbreaking loss. The Chiefs climbed back in the title hunt, while the Broncos went from being the hunters to the hunted. 3 weeks later in Three Rivers Stadium, Denver seemed to regain its confidence by racing to a 21-7 lead. But the confidence and lead both vanished, and Pittsburgh handed Denver its 3rd loss of the season.
I remember Mark Schlereth, getting up in front of the team talking, and then he passed his Super Bowl ring around. And, man, that really had a big impact on me because I'd never been able to hold a Super Bowl ring like that and just kind of, look at it and, hear Mark's story about it. That had a big impact on me.
I was in the training room when meetings were about to start, and I see guys running in, a minute late to a special teams meeting or this, that, and the other. And I'm like, do you guys understand how special this opportunity is and how special a football team we have? And ultimately what's going to lose it for us is us not taking care of us, like us not taking care of our business. And it was just something that had been on, like I had just watched for a couple of weeks, and we had lost a couple of games. And I was like, I pulled Mike aside and go, I just need to say a couple things to the team tomorrow, can I do that? He's like, absolutely. And so that's how that's the only reason that started, because I just knew, like I had been a part of a team that went 14-2 in the regular season, gave up 9 sacks in 19 games and won a world championship against the Buffalo Bills. And then next year we're fighting to make the playoffs. And a year after that, we had a 4-win season. So I'm like, I went from thinking in year 3, I was going to win 4 or 5 Super Bowls with the Washington Redskins. We were that dominant, to 2 years later being 4-12. And wow. I know how quickly it turned around. I'm like, these are the signs that say, man, this thing could turn around in a heartbeat. So I just wanted to impress upon us as a football team, like we got some special opportunities in front of us if we take care of us, and it's our team. And so that was kind of why I did that.
Well, the thing that I've always, known about football is that that it was going to be over quickly, and that you had to pounce on every opportunity. Like I said, from my days in college, when you have a chance to play for a championship, you just got to know what you're playing for. So that day, having an actual Super Bowl ring in front of you kind of just put it out there that this is what we're playing for.
Suddenly, Denver had to beat San Diego on the season's final Sunday just to host a wild card playoff game. And despite the absence of their all-pro running back, the Broncos were equal to the task.
The San Diego Charger game was an important game for us because we needed to win the game to make it to the playoffs. But for me, in particular, it was an extraordinary game because earlier in the season, when we went to Mexico, I tore my left tricep, and I played the whole season with a torn left tricep. And in the San Diego Charger game, I tore my right tricep. And that's when I knew at that very moment that I would do anything physically to win a championship for the Broncos, because I loved my teammates. I loved the opportunity to play. And the Chargers were just a necessary foe to get to the playoffs. But as soon as we won that game, my attention turned to, well, in a season like this where I've torn both triceps, we got to win a Super Bowl.
Well, that was, I didn't have those injuries. I dislocated my shoulder earlier in the season. But I think we were all kind of on a mission, feeling like this was our opportunity. This was our chance to, go deep into the playoffs and kind of, get back for, us not doing it the previous year. And then also, I think there was a lot of weight on us for the organization not having won any of the Super Bowls that it had played in, and then the AFC having had a long drought of winning a Super Bowl. So it was kind of a lot of pressure there, a lot of weight. But I think we rose to the challenge, and I think we did a great job of just, listen to our coaches and plan for one another.
Well, that Charger game for me was big because I didn't play in that game because I was still coming back from the back surgery, but I knew I was going to play the next week had we won that game, and we did. And it couldn't have lined up any better because we got the opportunity to play Jacksonville.